Well, traders, it's Mark Sebastian, your only option. The S&P 500 is at a new recent low. It's now down the full 10%, entering correction territory. We're going to break down what's going on with the S&P and why. We're going to talk about the VIX and volatility. We're going to take a look at the bond market because there's some important things going on there. And then I'm going to tell you what I'm doing about this event that we're in right now. So with that, let's dig in. All right, so folks, let me get this going for you. This is the VIX. It has been cascading higher and bottomed out on Thursday, ended the day green. I'm going to talk a little about what we're seeing in VIX here in a second, but I want to talk SPX first. We're below every major moving average. From peak to trough, down a full 10%. It's been ugly, but it hasn't been that bad. One thing that is eerie about this sell-off is the lack of a huge sell candle. And what do I mean by that? Take a look. We've had some big down days and big up days, but none of them are as big as what we saw on December 18th when we dropped almost 200 points. We haven't had a day where we gapped down big, right? From August 1st to August 6th, right? We had this massive drop on a gap. Haven't had that yet, folks. We've not had that. That is part of the reason why you've got to be concerned with where we are right now. And I'm going to, again, talk a little bit more about that, but I want to look at the Qs because the Qs do look significantly worse than the S&P 500, and they do have a couple of candles that are almost as big as December 18th. And why is that? Because this sell-off is being led by the Mag 7. And what about the Mag 7 is leading the sell-off? I mean, the worst offender the last week has been Apple. Apple from February 25th to March 13th is down over 40 points. Gets down to 200, you'll be talking a 20% drop. Amazon, from February 4th to where we are, it's down $47, more than 20%. Google had that big, great earnings, big quantum computer popping. Since the 21st, it's gone from 185 down to 162. Why are all of these dropping? And the answer is price-earnings ratio. Leading into this sell-off, Apple was carrying a price-earnings ratio approaching 40. It's now about to break 30. That needs to happen, folks. A lot of these major tech firms have forward multiples that had gotten out of whack. Now they're coming back into play. The PE on Nvidia is down below 40. All right, starting to get logical. And what do you know? Nvidia rallies. The PE on, a Microsoft or a Meta, they're starting to peak. Microsoft's at 30. Meta is down to 25. When we see these Mag 7s all have PEs, not Nvidia, not Tesla, and not Broadcom, but when we see a lot of these fall back into the 20s, that is when we're going to find a floor. So what is causing this? Well, we had priced in a lot of growth. All right, a forward multiple is you're betting on earnings continuing to grow. And if earnings are just going to grow at a slightly slower pace for these big names, we need to reset where they are, reset expectations. And so with that, you get this 10% drop. You get valuations back to where they were. That is why this is happening. Some of the euphoria has been taken out of the market. Now, let's talk about what all this means for the VIX. Well, we've had this really steady climb all the way to the 11th. Then a big vol drop on Thursday. Said to myself, we did technically get to a correction. Maybe we're on a lot of stocks. Maybe we're starting to find a bottom here. Today, looked like we were going to really find a bottom. We were down 40 points and VIX was down. We closed down 78 and VIX was only up 43 cents. What does that mean? Well, movement is starting to pull back. We're moving less. Look at this yellow line, right? Moving less. If you look at SPX, we're moving less a little bit, right? We peaked at 101. We're down to about 97 points a day over the last 10 days. So when we're moving less, even if we're selling off, traders are going to start taking hedges off. And so you see some of that. What traders are doing is selling their hedges that worked and buying further way out of the money puts. So what does that mean for you? Volatility is not going to go up as much because people are selling to buy. They're not just straight up buying. Now, looking at VIX futures term, it's telling us the exact same thing. One thing that's interesting is that the spread between the cash and futures has really tightened up. And let me show you what I mean by that. Take a look at the 10th. VIX was up at 28. VIX futures about 24. Now we're here. VIX futures almost exactly the same spot. VIX itself has come in. So markets appear to be starting to find some balance. Now, here's what I believe is about to happen. I believe we're going to be down potentially on Friday on the open, maybe a gap lower. The question is, does that continue lower or does it get bought? If it gets bought, Friday's gap down would be the bottom. If it doesn't get bought and we continue to sell, then the bottom will be Monday. Then on Tuesday, we'll start to rally ahead of the Fed, and then Wednesday we have Fed. So how am I approaching this? How am I trading this? Well, I am looking at SPY or SPX or XSP, any of the SPY ones. And I am looking at puts for March 17th or March 18th. The March 18th 550 puts are $4.20, $4.30. The 550 puts for Monday, which is the 17th, happy St. Patrick's Day, are about $3.40. Those make a lot of sense to jump in. If we gap lower, obviously, eventually the targets I would have for SPX, go out to a 2-year chart, we're targeting 54, call it 54, 542, 542.50, and if somehow that broke, we'd be looking at 510. So there is, even if we open down 50, we'll get some follow through. So be ready. All right, folks. So there is your explanation about what's happening, why it's happening, and what I'm doing about it. An alternative to what I just discussed is two-way trades. It is the simplest, easiest way to trade in any market, especially the market we're looking at right now, because it takes advantage of big moves. When we get big moves, weekly profit cycles makes weekly profits. So if you didn't see Hannah and Andrew on Wednesday, you can click the link in this email. If you're watching me on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and leave a question, and I will get back to you. All right, folks, I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. Have a good one.